Sophie, till late in the third quarter, you guys were struggling offensively in that frame. Second half in general didn't feel the same as the first half on that end. Did something change for you guys? What did you see as kind of leading to stalling on that end?
Yeah, I think we were just kind of slow. And every time that we're slow, especially defensively, it just somehow affects our offense.
How does a team blow a 13-point lead and spark an internal crisis in a single night? After the Indiana Fever's humiliating collapse against one of the worst teams in the league, Coach Stephanie White blamed a stuck offense. But her players told a different story. Sophie Cunningham's brutally honest post-game comments revealed a team that had lost its fight, its identity, and its edge. This wasn't just a loss. It was the result of a single baffling coaching decision that cost them the game and exposed a massive divide between the players giving their all and the leadership calling the shots.
Above her head is Cunningham with a steal. Cunningham feeds Sims, who goes coast to coast and lays it in.
So they had to make sure they had the right shot clock time as well while they were reviewing that.
So Indiana with a 10-point lead here. 6 minutes until halftime as Boston finds some space and knocks it down. Now Sims launches ahead for Mitchell. What a pass by Odyssey Sims.
It's up in the chat. Get excited! It's in the chat. Why at the same time? Because I'm you and you're me. We switch bodies. Zub's in the chat.
For a while, it looked like an easy night for Indiana. In the first half, they were in total control, building a 13-point advantage that felt insurmountable. Aliyah Boston was an absolute force in the paint, demanding double teams and finishing with authority. Kelsey Mitchell wasn't just scoring, she was a true playmaker, dissecting the Mystics' defense and setting up her teammates with precision. The ball was moving, the defense was active, and the Fever were playing with the kind of swagger you'd expect from a team fighting for a playoff spot. They were cruising, silencing the away crowd, and looking every bit like the superior team. But beneath the surface of that dominant performance, a catastrophic collapse was brewing, ready to unravel everything in the blink of an eye.
Playing for the Buckeyes.
Here is the Buckeye product on the backdoor pass, but Mitchell lost the handle. Sutton thought about the three, steps in, Hull got a piece. Dolson has been wide open all possession, splashes home a three, and we are level at 47. It into Boston. Hand off Mitchell. Indiana has to hurry. Lob back for Boston. Boston finishes. It's a 2-point game, 5.9 seconds remaining.
The floor fell out from under them almost instantly. Washington ripped off a devastating 22-7 run that didn't just erase the lead, it stole Indiana's will. Suddenly, the confident offense became stagnant and predictable. The aggressive defense turned sloppy and undisciplined. The Fever started committing foul after foul, sending the Mystics to the free throw line an incredible 26 times. Every possession seemed to end in either a turnover or a late rotation foul. This wasn't a masterclass from Washington. It was a masterclass in self-destruction. Making matters worse, it was Washington's rookies who were twisting the knife. Sonia Citron and Kiki Affen played with the poise of veterans, combining for nearly 40 points and exposing every mistake Indiana made. Watching a young, struggling team dismantle your lead piece by piece isn't just a loss, it's an embarrassment.
Sims with 5 off the bench. Indiana has 8 first-quarter bench points. That's typically been a strength when they're playing well, as Iriafen just bullies her way inside. Now Citron being guarded by Lexi Hull. Hull goes over the screen, defends her really well. Citron just has to fire it up, and a circus shot for Citron.
But you can't blame the players on the floor for a lack of effort. They fought until the very end to drag the team back into it. Aliyah Boston finished with a monster stat line of 20 points and 9 rebounds, refusing to be pushed around inside. Kelsey Mitchell did everything she could, putting up 14 points and dishing out 9 assists while facing constant pressure. And then there was Sophie Cunningham, the heart and soul of the team, who filled the stat sheet with 8 points, 6 assists, and 3 steals. Her energy was infectious, and she made plays that don't always show up in the box score but keep a team's spirit alive. Their collective fight should have been enough to win, so why wasn't it? The answer lies not in who was on the court, but who was left sitting on the bench.
Cunningham looking, finds Mitchell, launches a corner three. It won't go. Rebound Aiksler. And this young Washington Mystics group who continues to impress throughout this season. And Sidney Johnson in his first year comes up with a big win on the road.
On their ball screen coverages right now.
Here's Mitchell on the handoff, bounce pass. Boston one bounce and a left-handed finish. Here's Boston, the offensive rebound, flips inside to Howard who lays it in.
You go step up screen, flare on the weak side. They had to make sure they had the right shot clock time as well while they were reviewing that.
So Indiana with a 10-point lead here, 6 minutes until halftime as Boston finds some space and knocks it down.
As the offense ground to a halt, turning into a predictable cycle of watching Kelsey Mitchell drive into a crowded paint, there was one obvious solution Indiana never turned to. Her name is Chloe Bibby, and she is by a wide margin the team's most dangerous three-point shooter, hitting an incredible 42% from beyond the arc. In a game where spacing was non-existent and the offense desperately needed a spark, Bibby was the perfect weapon. Spreading the floor with her shooting would have forced Washington's defense to stretch, opening up driving lanes for Mitchell and giving Boston more room to work inside. Instead, she never saw a single second of action, collecting splinters on the bench while her team drowned. It was the most baffling decision of the night, and it pointed directly at the coach.
Yeah, I think we over-dribbled at times. Our off-ball movement wasn't there. We did a lot of standing. It's almost like we gave the ball to Kelsey and just tried to watch her work. And that's not when we're at our best. I mean, yes, certainly we want to have the ball in our hands, but we've got to continue to get movement with and without the basketball. It was getting stuck. I mean, we want to play 0.5 to 1 second basketball, and we weren't. And it's got to get moving. And
when pressed after the game, Coach Stephanie White offered an explanation that left many fans scratching their heads. She claimed she sat Bibby because of defensive matchup concerns, worrying that Washington's lineups would expose her on defense and on the boards. But that excuse crumbles under the slightest scrutiny. The defense was already in shambles without Bibby on the floor. They were giving up wide-open looks and sending Washington to the line for 14 free throws in the fourth quarter alone. Kiki Afin dominated the paint regardless. The defensive problems White was supposedly trying to avoid happened anyway. Then came the most ironic line of the night when White admitted the offense was getting stuck. She correctly identified the problem while refusing to use the most obvious solution she had waiting on her bench.
With Chloe Bibby tonight, were there thoughts of maybe plugging her in to try and spark the offense a little bit, or what was the decision behind not playing her?
yeah, there were some thoughts. I think that it matched up defensively more than anything with the way that we were going to try to play them, or in some of our switches and things like that. So that was mostly the reason.
And then just with the rotation, was it just those eight or seven that you ran with? Was it just they were flowing well and you wanted to just leave that going, or what was the thought there?
Yeah, I think some of it was defense. Being able to execute the type of defensive coverages that we wanted to have against this, the way that they play.
While the coach was explaining the problems, one player was demanding a solution. Sophie Cunningham stepped up to the microphone, and the difference in tone was impossible to ignore. There were no excuses or complex explanations. There was just raw, unfiltered honesty. She acknowledged the team's injuries, but refused to use them as a crutch. Then she delivered the line that said everything: "We got to get back to being dogs." It was a powerful statement, a direct challenge to the team's mentality. She was saying that opponents no longer fear them, that they're being outworked and out-toughed. It was a cry for accountability, an admission that something fundamental was broken. While the coach talked about strategy, a player talked about heart, revealing a massive disconnect between the locker room and the whiteboard.
It hurts. I mean, think if we had 8 turnovers for 13 points in the second half as well. So we didn't take care of it.
Indiana with their work cut out for them here. 6-point deficit, just over 5 minutes left to play. Mitchell, feed inside. There's an easy 2 for Boston. Cunningham leans in, thought she threw the foul. Boston pulls down the rebound and lays it in.
To understand the depth of this frustration, you have to look at who wasn't on the court. The Fever were playing without their backcourt foundation. Superstar Caitlin Clark remained sidelined, and the team lost both Sydney Colson and Ari McDonald, to season-ending injuries in the same week. They were so depleted that they had to sign players like Odyssey Sims on hardship deals just to have enough bodies to field a team. This context makes the players' fight even more impressive. Boston had to carry a heavier load, Mitchell's workload as a playmaker doubled, and Cunningham had to do even more of the dirty work. They were playing with a handicap and still built a 13-point lead. But this also makes the strategic rigidity even more unforgivable. When your roster is stretched thin, you have to be smarter and more creative, not more predictable.
And I think it was something like a 22-7 run, the end of the second, beginning of the third quarter. And those are hard to recover from when anytime really, but when you're missing pieces. And, we've got to make sure that we're sharper at times. We don't have the margin to have lulls within quarters. And then I believe they had something like 21 points from free throw line and turnovers of their 26 in the fourth. And, we control that defending without fouling. We control that taking care of the basketball, decision making at times. And some of it's, playing some people out of position, and some of it's just not being, valuing the basketball in the way that we need to value it, being a little sloppy with it.
Pulleys their way inside.
What a pass by Melvin, too. Really nice.
Mitchell turns on the Jets and gets to the rim.
No one can keep Killard is one of the best rebounders out of her area, which means the ball not directly above her head is Cunningham with a steal.
Cunningham feeds Sims, who goes coast to coast and lays it in. So 4 quick ones for Indiana.
Coach White called the offense stuck, but that's a massive understatement. It was broken. As Washington made its run, Indiana's offense devolved into one predictable play. Give the ball to Kelsey Mitchell and watch her try to work magic against multiple defenders. Washington didn't need a complex scheme to stop it. They just built a wall in the paint, knowing exactly where the ball was going. Mitchell was forced to take tough, contested shots while her teammates stood and watched. This wasn't a fluid system failing. It was the absence of a system altogether. The antidote to a packed paint is a shooter. The defense must respect a player who forces them to spread out, and that antidote, Chloe Bibby, was sitting on the bench, unused. The offense wasn't just stuck, it was strategically strangled by its own coach.
I think the thing that we just have to continue to do that kind of got us on the run we had before the last couple games was we were aggressive at the opponent attack on defense, and that led to easy transition buckets. That led to everyone being aggressive and on their front foot on the offensive end. And, we have new players, and that's okay, but we just have to adjust, and we need them. We've faced a lot of adversity, but we should be used to that by now. And I think they could just kind of outwork us a little bit, and that just can't be our excuse.
What makes this loss so infuriating for fans is that it feels so familiar. This isn't a one-time meltdown. It's part of a recurring pattern for the Fever under Stephanie White. Time and again, this team shows flashes of brilliance, only to crumble in the face of adversity with no effective adjustments from the sideline. In a tight playoff race, you can't afford to give away winnable games against bottom-tier opponents. These are the losses that haunt you at the end of the season, the ones that separate playoff teams from lottery teams. The players are looking for in-game solutions and strategic leadership, but what they seem to be getting are post-game explanations. This loss raises a crucial question: is this the leadership that can elevate a talented roster, or the very thing holding it back?
Really control the outside things. You can't control injuries, and so that's why you really do have to control your mental and control what you can control. And I think that we have a really good group. We're still a tight-knit group. We're adding new players in that are amazing. O's been around the league for a long time, and I know you don't think so, but it's a blessing that you weren't on another team because we need you here. And so I just think it's an adjustment period. The highs and lows, you just have to stay kind of steady, right? Every team faces it. I feel like we faced it more than most this year, but I think this is going to set us up for something good. I don't know if it's this season. I don't know if it's next season, but I think there's always something that you can be grateful for and learn during those hard times.
The divide between the coach and players became painfully public after this game. A coach who describes a collapse by saying the offense got stuck is speaking a different language than a player who demands her team get back to being dogs. One is a passive observation of a problem, the other is an active, urgent call for a change in identity and culture. When a team leader like Cunningham has to publicly call for toughness, it suggests that message isn't coming from the top. This creates a dangerous vacuum where players feel like they have to lead themselves, not just on the court but in setting the entire tone for the organization. That kind of internal friction can poison a locker room, especially when a team is already dealing with the pressure of injuries and a tight playoff race.
Sophie, what was the message inside the locker room? Like, what were you guys talking about there after the game?
Yeah, I just think that we've had some hard injuries this year. We've had some different lineups and roster spots. And, to be frank, I don't think anyone else around the league thinks that we can do it anymore. But I think that our group does. And I think that we just have to get that confidence back. When we're clicking offensively, defensively, we're scary. And not a lot of teams can beat us, even with the roster that we have right now. And so for us, it's just remembering who we are. It's our identity. We got to get back to being dogs, got to get back to being aggressive, being on our front foot, and not allowing teams like this to come in here and outwork us.
Let's be clear, this loss wasn't just embarrassing, it was costly. It dropped the Fever to 7th place in the standings, pulling them back into a chaotic dogfight for the final playoff spots. Their margin for error has now shrunk to almost zero. In a league this competitive, you cannot give away games to teams at the bottom of the standings. Those are the wins you bank on, the ones that give you a cushion for tougher matchups. By losing to the Mystics, the Fever have put their playoff destiny in jeopardy. Every game from here on out is now a must-win, and they have to do it with a depleted roster and a cloud of doubt hanging over their strategic leadership. This collapse might be the single moment they look back on as the mistake that cost them their season.
The past couple games where it feels like kind of that wear and tear's taking a toll?
Not really. And I think that she kind of hit it. You have to give yourself a little bit of grace. When you have so many different lineups, and I have never played together. Hasn't played with a lot of people, maybe Tosh. But you have to know her style. She has to know our style. And so it's different, but that's part of being a pro. You got to adjust and you got to learn fast. And I think that's a really cool thing too, because when you click, you click. And so that's scary for people coming in here and trying to play us.
This loss wasn't just about a single game. It was a symptom of a much larger issue. The players are giving everything they have, fighting through injuries and adversity. Boston, Mitchell, and Cunningham are leaving it all on the floor. But their effort is being undermined by a coaching strategy that feels rigid and unresponsive. A team's identity is forged in moments like these, and right now, the Indiana Fever's identity is split in two. There's the fire of the players and the questionable decisions from the sideline. Is this a temporary slump, or a sign of a deeper divide that could derail their entire season? Now we want to hear from you. Who do you think is truly to blame for this collapse? Was it Stephanie White's coaching, the injury crisis, or did the players fail to execute? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.